Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is KT Engel, and I'm the Senior Program Manager for Metropolitan Energy Center. In the next 45 minutes, we'll be going over the details, documents, and submission process for our new funding opportunity, Clean Diesel Replacement Funding 2026. You can follow all developments for this funding opportunity on the web at metroenergy.org/procurement. This is a pre-recorded webinar. Applicants are encouraged to submit questions by email to rfa@metroenergy.org with the subject line, Query for DARE RFA. Questions for the first round of applications will be accepted until August 18th. Answers will be emailed back to you as well as posted publicly on the MEC website. Where discrepancies exist between this webinar and the associated request for application or the guidance document will prevail. A recording of this presentation is also available on the MEC website. If you have not already, please sign up for the notifications about this grant. Before diving into the details, we'll start with our program's requirements, breaking down the application process, eligibility criteria, and timelines so you feel confident moving forward. After that, we'll discuss how to align your project with sustainability goals, ensuring it contributes to long-term environmental and economic benefit, as well as how your project can have a lasting impact. Our agenda for today is as follows: an overview of MEC's Clean Diesel Replacement Funding Opportunity, a detailed review of the application requirements, including documents, evaluation criteria, and format. We will wrap up with a brief discussion of administrative conditions. This request for application is a multi-round RFA that will continue to rotate approximately every 30 days until all funds are allocated. It is our intent that by offering rolling deadlines, we are providing flexibility for applicants and ensuring that these funds are distributed based on need and availability. Here's the timeline for this RFA. Each round is roughly 1 month long and consists of a new questions deadline, a new submission deadline, and an expected date of selection. For round 1, the question deadline is August 18th. The submission deadline is August 21st at 5 p.m. Central, and the expected selection date is August 31st. For round 2, RFA question deadline is September 8th, the RFA submission deadline is September 11th at 5 p.m. Central, and the expected selection date is September 21st, 2026. And if needed, round 3, the question deadline is September 29th, the submission deadline is October 2nd, and the expected selection date is October 12th, 2026. The expected timeline for negotiations is about 2 to 3 weeks from selection. Emissions from heavy-duty vehicles, particularly those operating in or near residential areas, significantly contribute to poor air quality, which in turn exacerbates asthma, illness, school absences, and can lead to early mortality. Our current Clean Diesel Replacement Funding solicitation, supported by the EPA's National Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, or DARA, has approximately $1.4 million in federal funding available, and MEC expects to select approximately 6 projects. Proposed deployments should be scheduled within 4 to 10 months with a final deployment deadline of June 30th, 2027. The goal of this RFA is to identify applicants who will replace their Class 5 through Class 8 diesel vehicles with comparable vehicles powered by electricity or EVs, propane or LPG, compressed natural gas, CNG, or biodiesel-equipped engines designed for operation on B100 biodiesel. Funding for this program will be provided as a rebate, and MEC reserves the right to not fund or to provide partial funding. Federal reimbursement will range from 25% to 50% of the total cost of purchase and deployment, depending on the technology selected. Applicants must provide cost sharing for their project expenditures, and those willing to increase their cost share beyond the minimum will improve their chances of being selected. However, increasing the cost share does not guarantee a successful application. All replaced diesel vehicles must be destroyed with proper documentation. Scrappage must occur within 90 days of new vehicle deployment. Selected applicants must ensure that both the vehicles being displaced and their replacements meet the program's eligibility criteria. New vehicles must perform the same work as the diesel ones being replaced and have comparable horsepower and displacement, and must perform the same function as the original diesel vehicles. The geographic scope for this funding is limited to Kansas and Missouri. Priority will be given to projects operating in non-attainment or maintenance areas for national ambient air quality standards with elevated diesel particulate matter concentrations. Cost-sharing requirements apply to all projects and depend on technologies selected. As previously stated, applicants willing to forego some funding, for instance, asking for 20% reimbursement instead of the 25% maximum on a vehicle replacement, will improve their chances of approval, though doing so cannot guarantee selection. LPG, CNG, and biodiesel-equipped vehicles are eligible for rebates of up to 25% of the total vehicle cost, or if the new vehicle meets the California Air Resources Board low NOx standard, up to 35%. Electric vehicles are eligible for rebates of up to 45% of the total vehicle cost, and electric drayage truck replacements are eligible for rebates of up to 50% of the total vehicle cost. The vehicles being replaced must be currently powered by diesel and must be Class 5 to Class 8 diesel vehicles. That is, with a gross vehicle weight rating of 13,001 pounds to over 33,000 pounds. Eligible categories include school or transit buses, off-road terminal trucks, work trucks, trash haulers, short-haul delivery trucks, long-haul freight tractors, or drayage trucks. Engine model year of vehicles being replaced impacts the eligible technology that can be deployed. Applicants cannot use DARA funding to enlarge a fleet for fueling or for fueling infrastructure. To reiterate, non-diesel vehicles are not eligible for replacement. Additionally, the participating fleet owner must currently own and operate the existing vehicle and have owned and operated the vehicle during the 2 years prior to upgrade. The vehicle being scrapped must at least have 3 years of remaining life at the time of upgrade. For the 2 years preceding submission of your application, on-road vehicles must have averaged a minimum of 7,000 miles per year, and off-road vehicles must have averaged a minimum of 500 hours of use. Remaining life is the fleet owner's estimate of the number of years until the unit would have been retired from service, even if the unit were to be rebuilt or sold, and includes factors like age, condition, usage, maintenance, and so on. Note, annual mileage and operating hours from 2 units may be combined to reach the minimum requirements, those units being scrapped and replaced with a single unit. Stay tuned and we'll discuss scrapping more thoroughly in a moment. To ensure the planned replacement is certified and eligible under these funds, go to the website for the California Air Resources Board and search engine family names. A link to the website is in the guidance document, and vehicles are listed by engine model, year, type, and original equipment manufacturer, or OEM. As previously described, new replacement vehicles must be powered by compressed natural gas, propane, electricity, or biodiesel-equipped engines designed for operation on B100 biodiesel. New vehicles must perform substantially the same work as the units they replace and largely have the same horsepower displacement. Increases of up to 10% gross vehicle weight rating within an engine's intended service class may be allowed for vocational trucks, but the EPA must agree to variances like this before purchasing. New vehicles must replace an old vehicle. A fleet expansion is not allowed. Scrapping is required, and all vehicles replaced under this program must be destroyed. There are specific requirements for the scrapping process, including prescribed methods, photographs, site visits, and sales receipts. Fleets must work with their MEC contact to plan scrapping so that it meets these requirements. Old units must be scrapped within 90 days of the date that replacement vehicles are placed in service. Any income from scrapping old units needs to be documented. It's considered program income under the DARA rules and will be subtracted from applicant rebates. As reviewers, MEC will prioritize factors like reducing criteria air pollutants, reduced use of petroleum diesel in school buses, electrification of heavy diesel vehicles, and applicant participation in outreach and public awareness campaigns. In addition, EPA guidelines prioritize these short-term outcomes. Improvements within the goods movement sector, including rail and freight terminals, ports, and distribution centers. Electric and gaseous fuel vehicle deployments within communities hurt by air pollution. Inclusion of plans for workforce readiness and worker training through alternative fuel deployments involving drivers, technicians, mechanics, and other essential personnel. Inclusion of plans to protect funded investments from negative weather impacts such as floods, storm damage, and so on. Data capture and lessons learned is an important goal, and projects on the leading edge of technology are encouraged. These will be leveraged into project success stories and shared through our business and community relationships using targeted outreach and educational peer-to-peer presentations. Long-term benefits and outcomes will include reduction of NOx, particulate matter, and other criteria air pollutants, better air quality for communities affected by pollution, and expanded market acceptance of electric and gaseous fuel vehicle deployment, moving forward self-sustaining regional and national alternative fuel markets. All applications will be evaluated by a committee consisting of MEC staff and other members offering technical evaluations and assistance as necessary. Applicants will be notified if additional information or documentation is required. No additional information pertaining to submission, including email and phone calls, will be considered once the review process for that round is underway. When evaluating projects for funding, applications will be evaluated based on a variety of criteria, including the impact on non-attainment areas, the volume of diesel fuel displaced, duty cycle, cost effectiveness, and other factors such as outreach, participation, and workforce readiness. Applications will be scored in each of the evaluation criteria in this table and given a final score. If not provided with the application, one or more of the committee will use the provided deployment site and fleet data sheet to generate a criteria pollutant determination and an emissions report from the diesel emission quantifier, which will be used for criteria 1 and 2. As we stated, the deadlines of this RFA will continue to rotate approximately monthly until all funds are allocated. Applications are due August 21st, September 8th, and October 2nd, 2026. Only electronic applications will be accepted. Hard copy applications will not be accepted. Please email your applications to rfa@metroenergy.org. Subject: Clean Diesel Replacement Funding, applicant name. Applicants will receive an email response notification of the receipt of their application within 2 business days upon submission. MEC is not responsible for technical or transmittal issues when submitting a grant application. Application form, budget worksheet, and price quotes are required, and other supporting materials such as DEQ report, NAAQ determination, letters of support are optional. Additional narrative up to 3 pages is also optional. Now let's get into the forms. On the application, Section A, applicants should provide their company details, federal employer identification number, UEI if applicable, and contact information for the authorized official and project manager. In Section B, applicants will provide the budget summary and specifics of their project. Field 4, the total project budget needs to summarize the cost for all project components for both the applicant and federal shares and must match the budget form summary sheet. Number 5, enter the sum of rebate funds requested. Again, the requested rebate amount must match the budget form summary sheet. On Field 6, enter the anticipated month and year when the vehicle deployment will be completed. Reminder, our final deployment deadline is June 2027. With number 7, enter the total number of new electric or alternative fueled vehicles for your project. On number 8, project description, briefly describe operations and operating conditions. For example, Class 8 trucks used for off-road goods movement and suburban setting. Or urban transit fleet on short routes. Or rural school bus fleet running 2 daily routes, and so on. In Section C, your authorized official signs and dates the application, which certifies that the statements and information provided are true and accurate, and that the applicant agrees to provide the required documentation and assurances necessary to complete the funding process. Under Section D, project details, applicants will provide additional project information such as the type of project, duty cycle, and plans for outreach and workforce readiness. Number 10, type of project. Only the vehicle replacements are eligible for this rebate application. And number 11, describe the duty cycle of your project. If none of the available options apply, please enter a short description, like Class 6 utility or work truck. On number 12, enter the percentage of operating time the diesel vehicle you want to replace spends on the county or area listed. Operating time should equal 100%. Operating time should total 100%. As a reminder, the geographic scope for this funding is limited to Kansas and Missouri, and priority will be given to projects operating in non-attainment or maintenance areas with elevated diesel particulate matter concentrations. With Field 13, outreach, describe public engagement activities as well as availability for peer networking and panel presentations to peers and industry in the region and/or nationally. Number 14, project sustainability. Please briefly discuss ways you plan to maintain your electrification or clean fuel project after the program ends. For 15, workforce development, briefly describe plans for workforce readiness and worker training for your alternative fuel deployments. These may include drivers, technicians, mechanics, and other essential personnel. Next, we'll transition into our overview of the budget workbook. The budget workbook, a required document, should be completed carefully following the instructions provided in the RFA guidance document. Download the Excel workbook at the RFA webpage, metroenergy.org/procurement/. Instructions for filling in the budget workbook are included in the Fleet Data tab in the Excel workbook. General notes regarding use of this workbook. It's a self-calculating form, so please do not change any of the field formulas. The workbook contains 3 tabs: Summary, Fleet Data, and Scrapping. Fill in your organization's name under Applicant. The rest of the information in this tab will auto-populate. The Summary tab contains formulas and will calculate total project costs, as well as show federal request and applicant share. These should add up to the total project budget. For example, $45,000 of federal and $55,000 of applicant equals a $100,000 total project. This is a snip of the Fleet Data tab. Fill in your proposed rebate percentage, the federal share, and the indicated field. Follow instructions to calculate a blended cost-sharing rate if planning is more than one category of replacement. For each fleet group, include the entire cost, not just the federal amount. Add columns as needed to fully describe the units or fleet groups included in your application. Subtotal and overall federal and applicant cost-sharing splits will be reflected on the Summary tab. Your request may include up to $1.4 million in federal funding for cost-shared projects. Your total budget should include all costs associated with purchase and deployments of vehicles, including operational uplifts to make the vehicles ready for deployment. Contact RFA at metroenergy.org for help with the budget workbook if needed. All units replaced under this program must be destroyed using specific scrapping methods and be conducted with photographs and scrap sale invoices. Income from scrapping will be reported in the Scrapping tab and be subtracted from applicant reimbursements. You may also include cost of sale, such as towing costs, to reduce the total anticipated revenue from scrapping. Let's do a quick recap of the required documents. So, summary of application documents. The application form is required. Download the PDF application form to a desktop to use all features and signature fields. Follow the instructions on the form to complete the tabs. Save as a PDF and name the file applicant name _application. Budget and fleet data form, which are required. Download the Excel file from the procurement webpage and follow the instructions in the Fleet Data tab of the Excel file to fill in the fields. See also instructions and information in the application form. Quotes, which are required. Provide a PDF of quotes to support the budget request. Combine all quotes into a single PDF and name the file applicant name _quotes. Other support documents, which are optional, and a combined PDF provides other support documents by using links from section 3B to generate determinations that show your project location in relation to non-attainment or maintenance zones, or areas of heavy PM 2.5 concentrations. These data are important considerations for evaluation and selection. However, if the applicant is unfamiliar with these resources and elects not to perform this research, the evaluation team will use submitted data to run them after submission. Omission of these other support documents will not affect your chances for selection. Combine all support documents into a single PDF and name the file applicant name _other attachments. Additional narrative, which is also optional, are limited to 3 pages. If the space provided in the application form are inadequate, applicants are welcome to state "see additional narrative" in the form fields and provide a longer narrative as an attachment. More information is always welcome. However, the omission of the additional narrative will not affect your chances for selection. Save as a PDF and name the file applicant name _narrative. Visit metroenergy.org/procurement to find this information in the guidance document. Proprietary/confidential information. Any restrictions on the use of or inspection of material contained within the application shall be clearly stated in the application itself. Written requests by the applicant for confidentiality shall be submitted to MEC in advance of the application submission deadline, along with the other application material. The applicant must state specifically what elements of the application are to be considered confidential or proprietary and must be packaged separately from the rest of the application. Commingling of confidential and proprietary and other sensitive information is not acceptable. Neither an application in its entirety nor application price information will be considered confidential and proprietary. Any information that will be included in any resulting agreement cannot be considered confidential. Organizational conflict of interest. Any business entity or individual may be ineligible for selection if they are found to have an organizational conflict of interest, as outlined in the RFA, in relation to the solicitation and resulting agreement. Applicants must disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Individuals or business entities who have been engaged by MEC to assist in preparing the original application or who have had access to sensitive information related to this procurement process prior to the solicitation, including but not limited to requirements, statements of work, or evaluation criteria, will not be eligible to directly or indirectly apply. MEC considers such prior engagement or access as an organizational conflict of interest, as it may create an unfair competitive advantage. RFA material ownership, response material ownership. MEC has the right to retain applicants' original applications and other RFA response material for its files. Binding offer. An application submitted in response to this RFA shall constitute a binding offer. Debarment and suspension. By submitting an application in response to this RFA, the applicant certifies that its principals, and proposed subcontractors, if any, are not presently debarred, suspended, proposed for disbarment, declared ineligible, or voluntarily excluded from covered transactions by any federal debarment or agency as outlined in the RFA. Disclaimer. All statistical and fiscal information contained within this RFA and any amendments and modifications thereto reflect the best and most accurate information available to MEC at the time of RFA preparation. As previously mentioned, applicants are required to provide their federal employer identification number and their unique entity identifier if they have one. Incurred cost. MEC is not liable for any cost incurred by the applicant prior to issuance of an executed agreement, purchase order, or other authorized acquisition document. Compliance with all federal, state, and municipal laws and regulations. Successful applicants shall comply with applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations in the performance of all work under the resulting agreement. Successful applications shall obtain all federal, state, and local permits, authorizations, and approval of all work performed under the agreement. This includes the governing agreement between MEC and the EPA. Contractual agreement. Successful applications who complete a contract agreement will manage and expend funding to maximize these benefits, including commencing expenditures and activities as quickly as possible, consistent with the prudent management. Contract planning, evaluation, and vendor selection will be required to align with the program's core goals. We will now move on to the selection process. MEC reserves the right to request additional information from applicants prior to the final determination. Funding decisions will be based on a competitive process, and not all applications may receive funding. MEC reserves the right to delay any decision due to budgetary constraints. MEC reserves the right to vary from the evaluation criteria listed within this document during the bid solicitation period as necessary or appropriate. Any modifications to evaluation criteria will be posted to MEC's website. It is the responsibility of the applicant to check for these changes. The selection notices for Round 1 are anticipated to be made 30 days after release, which will be August 31st, September 21st, and October 12th. Applicants will be notified of the review committee's determinations through email. Successful applicants are expected to sign and return the agreement to MEC within 2 weeks of receiving the document unless otherwise noted in writing by the MEC contract specialist. Funding decisions are final. Selection is based on a competitive process where applications are weighed against other applications and overall program goals. Any changes to an applicant's scope of work after funds are allocated, if not approved by MEC, will not be permitted and may lead to the nullification. All funding is contingent on the accuracy of the information provided in the applications and will require the successful applicant to maintain accountability and submit regular reports. These reports must follow the procedures set by MEC. Additionally, MEC staff will conduct periodic site visits during and after deployment to ensure compliance with the agreement. The following reporting requirements will be included in MEC's agreement with the successful applicants. Documentation and progress reporting. Successful applicants will commit to routine progress reporting in the form of digital check-ins, email updates, or other mutually acceptable formats. Progress reporting will occur on a regular basis to ensure a timely information exchange regarding scheduling changes, unanticipated outcomes or roadblocks encountered, findings or results, and potential outreach opportunities and workforce needs. If deployment or scrapping is behind schedule, reports must include a summary of the reasons for the delay and a plan for corrective action. Successful applicants will be required to provide evidence documenting the purchase and deployment of new vehicles, and evidence for the scrapping and sale of destroyed vehicle parts sufficient to comply with the DARA programmatic terms. Such documentation must be reviewed and approved by MEC and its prerequisite for receiving rebate payments. Annual reporting. After the project concludes and through the life of the vehicles, successful applicants will track and report to MEC on an annual basis vehicle mileage or hours, consumption of fuel or electricity, successes and problems encountered, and lessons learned. This data and information will be aggregated with our Clean Cities annual report to help justify federal program funding allocation nationwide. MEC will not publicly release any data specific to applicants participating in the program except for aggregated data in our annual report. MEC will make payments in accordance with the provisions set forth in its agreement with successful applicants. Successful applicants will be reimbursed only for equipment they deploy pursuant to the terms of the DARA program and the agreement. Payment will be contingent upon MEC's timely receipt and acceptance of required documents and reports. Once again, the due dates for this rolling RFA are August 21st, September 11th, and October 2nd by 5 p.m. Central, and the schedule will rotate approximately every 30 days until all of the funds are allocated. All questions should be directed by email to rfa@metroenergy.org. This recording will be available on MEC's website. If you have technical questions or need help applying, please email us at rfa@metroenergy.org. Please allow at least a week prior to the application date to allow time to coordinate your assistance and time for your application. Thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is KT Engel, and Metropolitan Energy Center looks forward to reviewing your applications for Clean Diesel Replacement Funding 2026. Have a great day.